right, I said I was going to make a video. Told a couple of you that I was going to make a video on buying a used Prius. I bought another one. We moved, so my commute got quite a bit longer to work, and driving my diesel truck didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I started hunting for another Prius or a Civic or something that would get really good fuel economy. And I wanted to make the primary focus of this video on how I go about looking for a budget-friendly vehicle. And I guess some of this ties into like what Dave Ramsey talks about with, when you're in the baby steps, if you follow any of that, and getting an inexpensive car to get you by. At any rate, so I'm an ASE certified master technician. I've been a technician for 17 plus years now. And everyone always asks me, man, why are you always buying these high mileage cars? Well, I have kind of a method to my madness that I use with it, and it has worked out really well for me. Every now and then you get one that's not quite as good of a vehicle as one of the other ones, but we've owned a bunch of Suburbans. I think they call it the GMT 800 series Suburbans, but it'd be like I kind of lean toward the 03 and newer, on up to about a 06, before the body style change, because they, in my opinion, became less reliable after that. At any rate, you got to worry. I'm from Minnesota, so we worry about rust. And the last Suburban I bought, the rust got away from it, and it wasn't worth fixing. So we ended up getting rid of that. But this is kind of a universal method on any vehicle, but it takes some time and it takes some research. You can't. The worst time to buy something is if you're in a hurry, and sometimes you just have to. Sometimes you need a vehicle and you don't have one. Totally understand that. But the best thing you can do is try to decide what type of vehicle. First, what type of vehicle you need, or what's going to suit your needs. If you have a lot of kids, minivans are tough to argue with. If you live somewhere where there's a lot of snow, maybe something with four-wheel drive, or if you have a long commute, a Prius like this one. So first step is to determine what type of vehicle you want. Second step, if you don't have a friend that's a mechanic or an automotive technician, however you want to put it, feel free to reach out to a local shop. Most of them are more than happy to help give you advice before you buy a vehicle. It's a lot harder to ask forgiveness after the fact, but call a shop and say, this is what I'm looking for. Do you have any advice? If you don't have the vehicle pinned down, like this one, I knew I was getting either a Prius or a Civic, because that's what I was after. If you don't have that pinned down, reach out to a shop, get a friend. If you have a cousin, neighbor, whatever, most of the time, 10-15 minutes of their time, they'll be able to point you in the right direction. But also ask them, and this is the key, when you are looking at these vehicles, what are major items on them to walk away from, or to be on the lookout for? And I use that knowledge to my advantage. For instance, I'll just use this Prius as an example. I looked at and messaged and asked questions to probably no less than 30 Prius owners, primarily Facebook Marketplace. And some of them don't really know the history of their car, some of them do. You kind of got to weed through those. But I was looking for specific things. I didn't care on mileage. Mileage means nothing to me as a technician. What matters to me is maintenance history. What matters to me is what are the major things that can go wrong with that vehicle, and have they been done yet? That's a key. So the Prius I'm driving right now has 286,000 miles. The ad was very short, had almost no details. Just had the mileage. The car is white with like a light or like a bluish tan interior, or bluish gray interior rather. A very plain car. It did have a backup camera, which was a plus, and they did post that in the ad. But as far as everything else goes, there wasn't much info. It wasn't super far from me, but it was probably about an hour drive. So I decided to go take a look at it, and when I was there, I started really drilling the gentleman questions. And he had all the receipts. This Toyota Prius was maintained at the Toyota dealership its entire life. Synthetic oil changes from day one until recent. Everything you could ever think of that needed to be done to this car was done at the Toyota dealership. Everything. Including 2 years ago, it had a Toyota part number hybrid battery put in it. Last year, it had the 12-volt battery put in it. It's got new tires on it. Brakes all the way around. Like, these are the things that anything you can get that has been replaced off of that list is one less thing, most likely, not for sure, but most likely one less thing that you're going to have to deal with when it's yours. Switching back over to the Chevy trucks, I'm going to make this a little bit more of a generic video than directly to Priuses, but going back to the Chevy trucks, you know, when I went and looked at the last Suburban that I bought, not the one that my wife drives now, but the one before that, the one that rusted out. When we went to look at that, it had a water pump leak. Super common on those trucks. And it's, you know, if you were to pay a shop to do it, it's somewhat of an expensive repair. So I negotiated the price down, and I asked him if I could put a pump in at his house. He lived out in the country and didn't seem to care, so I put a pump in at his house the next day, drove the truck home, you know. So I was able to buy the truck. Literally, I mean, it's a little bit different if you have the ability to fix them. I look for broken vehicles. But if you don't have the ability to fix broken vehicles, the ones you want to look for, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, but in my opinion, the ones you want to look for are the ones where the people are like, man, this thing's been nickel and diming me to death. Now, there's some cars, you know, like a flood damage car, stay away from that. Like, there's cars like that, yes, they can be a lemon, they should have been painted yellow from the factory. But there's other cars where, you know, people see it as it's been a huge financial burden. Another example I can give you is one of our customers at the last shop that I worked at had a Honda Odyssey minivan. They're good vehicles. They don't have a ton of major issues, but they do have some maintenance stuff that comes up: valve adjustment, timing belts, tune-up. You know, there are some things. And this couple had done one timing belt, and now they were right at the 190,000 mile mark. And they're like, geez, this thing's just, you know, it's so expensive to do the maintenance on this thing. And when we sat down and talked to them, outside of brakes, tires, which you're going to have on any vehicle, it doesn't matter what, there's no vehicle that you're immune to brakes and tires on. Some of them may not wear them as much, like these hybrids and the electric cars, they use the regenerative braking and stuff. But any other vehicle, you're going to deal with that. So that's like, doesn't count in my opinion, because you're going to get it no matter what you work on, or what you own, rather. The other stuff on their list was the timing belt water pump, wiper blades, and oil changes, which oil changes, again, you're going to have on any vehicle. So this van literally had cost them nothing outside of routine maintenance. And they bought that van brand new. So on the flip side, I mean, we see vehicles with all kinds of issues. So why not stick with what you know has been a good vehicle? They had done synthetic oil changes since it was new. Not religiously, but for the most part. And, you know, they'd taken care of it. I mean, as far as the maintenance schedule goes. In fact, they even, now that I think about it, they did do a tune-up and a valve adjustment, too. And that was where they felt that they were starting to get deep into the car. But then you go over the cost of that repair versus the cost of a car, and you're talking, well, 3, maybe 4 months of driving that would have been your car payment for a new vehicle. And then anything after that, you're back to square one. Your vehicle doesn't owe you anything. So in my opinion, sticking with a vehicle, or don't spend the money on the good stuff. There was a long period of time where you could get a Kia minivan for dirt cheap. Well, if you're not going to drive it all those miles, there's no point in it, because Kia at the time, I don't know if they still do, but they had a 100,000 mile warranty. At that point, you might as well buy a Kia and use it as a disposable car, which they kind of still are. They have engine issues. I would avoid a Kia and a Hyundai. Just my opinion. At least until they get their engine issues figured out. But I guess, like, to kind of wrap up the video, in my opinion, using that knowledge, and it's pretty much free knowledge. You can even Google this stuff. Most of the car, you know, you can find videos. What's the common problems on XYZ vehicle, you know, car, truck, whatever, and you'll find it. But the best way to do it is to talk to a technician, talk to a shop, get a good service writer, and bend their ear on it and find out, you know, what are you guys seeing with these? You know, every vehicle has common issues that we see from time, you know, come through in waves. And knowing that stuff, that's something that you can look for. You know, if it's a vehicle that has transmission issues, or the transmission issues are common on that vehicle, you could ask the owner, have you ever had the transmission replaced? Sometimes they don't post that because they don't want to make it sound like the car's rough, but they could be like, you know, I've actually ran into this before where they're like, well, yeah, actually, we did put a transmission in it at this transmission shop a year and a half ago. Oh, do you have the receipt? Yep, I do. Here it is. And here you find out this transmission is a remanufactured. Maybe the warranty is not interchangeable into your name. However, it still has the updated components in it, and if the vehicle's been running and driving fine, the odds of you having an issue anytime soon is pretty slim. So it's kind of like, instead of avoiding the problem, go look for the problem. Look for the vehicle that had the problem and it's been remedied. Or find the vehicle that currently has the problem, and you can use that as a negotiating or a bartering chip. Just my opinion. I've had really good luck doing it this way. This Prius, funny, this thing is getting 52.5 roughly miles to the gallon. I drive mostly highway, but over 70 keeping up with traffic. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. This one's getting better fuel economy than the last one. It's been a really good car so far. I've only put about 1,000 miles on it, but it trucks right along. The AC blows cold. I guess we'll find out on the heat when winter comes. But yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you have not already. I'll try to pick up the videos more and more as I go here. I really appreciate. I've noticed an uptick in the subscriptions, and I really do appreciate it. As this slowly grows, I'm working on getting a shop put together at my house, the hoist and all that stuff, and I'll try to get more into like some in-depth how-to videos. I feel a little I feel obligated to not do those at work for the sake of my employer and just kind of a conflict there. At any rate, thanks for watching.